good morning, wonderful humans and carbon based life forms. I am Tedless. I do not see a Ted Rall. Let's see if we can get a Ted up here.
Apparently we can. So I see you, Robbie. Do you see me?
Hold on one second there, my brother. I am checking some stuff.
I see you. Everything's fine.
I do indeed see a Ted.
Do they see us out there in TV land?
Yep, we are there. We
Okay,
are
good.
there.
All right. I mean, we're learning. We're learning. We're figuring stuff out. Anyway, thanks for joining the TMI show with Ted Rall and Manila Chan for Thursday, May 14th, 2026. I'm Ted Rall. Manila Chan is still dealing with her newborn child who should be fully raised by Memorial Day. So therefore, we expect her back thereabouts. Manila, if you're listening, we love you and look forward to seeing you again. Manila, but in the meantime, you'll have to make do with Robbie West and myself holding down the fort.
Yep.
Robbie, thanks for filling in for Manila again. And so we have a lot of news to get into. Just a
They uh,
reminder.
they
Go
do
ahead.
not see us. It's still the TMI logo up.
Oh my God. Do they hear us?
Yes, they hear us, but they do not see us.
Why would that be true? Do you
Th-
remember
th- They
what
cannot see our smiling faces.
what happened yesterday? Do you remember what the cause was so that we can fix it?
It's because the overlay is over us.
Oh, okay. I can fix that. Okay. All right. Let me. Okay. That should fix the problem.
Boys and girls, we're getting this squared away.
Okay.
Listen, Rumble Studio is a great program, but it is really squirrely sometimes.
Yeah. No.
There we
It's
go.
all right. Are we visible now?
We are. We are no longer covered up by the beautiful, luscious Manila Chan.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Off to the races. Just a reminder, coming up at 11 o'clock today is the DMZ America podcast with me and Scott Stantis. We will have a good guest who we've had on before, Rob Rogers of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, or more accurately, formerly of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Still an editorial cartoonist, still doing good work. So I'm looking forward to catching up with Rob. Please keep it on YouTube or Rumble for that. We should probably just launch right into the news if you're okay with that.
I am good with it.
Okay, good. All right, then. All right, so of course, oh, yeah, now I'm having Google Docs issues. All right, here we go. Two South Florida cops say that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's recent action movie, The Rip. Did you see this movie, Robbie?
I did not.
All right, it was on Netflix. Anyway, the two cops claim that The Rip used too many real life details in its fictionalized movie, causing harm to the officers' personal and professional reputations, and they are suing Ben Affleck and Matt Damon for defamation. Jason Smith and Jonathan Santana, who are both sergeants in the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, filed their lawsuit in Miami federal court against Artists Equity. That's a film production company owned by Affleck and Damon. It's a little confusing because it sounds like it's like a movie union or something, but it's not. Court filings don't say how much the officers are suing for, but the civil complaint says they're seeking compensatory damages, punitive damages, and attorney's fees, as well as a retraction and a correction. The Rip stars Affleck and Damon as South Florida cops who find millions of dollars inside a house. Parts of the movie were inspired by a 2016 case where the police found over $21 million linked to a suspected marijuana trafficker in a Miami Lakes home. Affleck and Damon said while promoting the movie that the story is loosely based on accounts from Miami-Dade Police Department Chris Cassiano, who served as a tech advisor on the movie. Damon told the AP that he and Affleck spent time with Cassiano and other narcotics cops to prepare for the movie. We really wanted to kind of understand what those dynamics were like, Matt Damon said. I mean, these units are very tight because they're really putting their lives in each other's hands, and they're doing something very dangerous. An attorney for Artists Equity, that's Damon and Affleck's company, declined to comment when reached by the EP, but in a March 19th response to the plaintiff's demand letter, Leda Walker, a lawyer for the two men and their company Artist Equity, wrote back that the film does not purport to tell the true story of that incident or portray real people, which had been stated by a disclaimer in the movie's credits. Although Smith and Santana are not named in the film and were not involved in its production, the lawsuit says that Santana was serving as the lead detective assigned to the real case, and Smith was the sergeant who supervised the investigative team. The film's inclusion of real details about the case gives the impression that the characters are based on the plaintiffs, the lawsuit said. This, the lawsuit says, has given friends, family members, and colleagues the impression that the plaintiffs committed the criminal acts that appear in the movie, which include conspiring to steal drug money, murdering a supervising officer, communicating with cartel members, committing arson in a residential neighborhood, endangering the lives of civilians, repeatedly violating core law enforcement protocols, and executing a federal agent as opposed to doing what they were supposed to do, which was to make an arrest. I have thoughts before I launch into them. Do you want to share yours?
Um, I got to hear what your thoughts are because I don't understand why the hell they're suing.
Okay, well, they're suing because basically, okay, so I did see the movie, and so basically it boils down to the movie's very confusing. I won't get into the quality of the movie, except to say it's actually kind of the worst Matt Damon, Ben Affleck movie ever made by far. It's so not worth seeing. Okay, now even though it's free on Netflix, it's like you're going to be 2.5 hours closer to your death, and not the better for it.
So it's that
But
bad.
it sucks. I mean, and look, I think both of those guys have made great movies, but this ain't one of them. I was shocked at how bad it was when I saw it. I was like, "What the fuck happened here?" I mean, how the fuck could these two guys, who have this history of making great movies separately and together, how could they have produced this piece of shit? I just don't get it. But somehow they did. But okay, the point is though. Yes, there's a disclaimer. And basically what they're suing is they're saying, look, this was based on a real event. And it's made very clear in the movie that this is based on a real event. It's not, the movie doesn't say at the beginning, look, there was a real event where this happened, but we're going to give you a version of it that really doesn't bear much resemblance or is very, very, very loosely based on these real events. And this is not what actually happened, right? They're sort of saying this happened, and this is based on it. And so as a result, these two cops, people think, I think understandably so, that, and are probably telling them, I can't believe you guys did that. And they're like, no, we didn't do that. So I'm kind of torn between two of my biases and prejudices. One, I tend to have a lot of sympathy for defamation plaintiffs because I know how incredibly difficult it is to sue for defamation in the United States, especially when you have a valid case. Obviously, if you have a frivolous case, and a lot of defamation lawsuits are frivolous, I don't give a shit about you. But also, there's my bias against police officers who I tend to think are often corrupt liars. However, in this case, I'm going to say I'm on Team Cop here. I think these two cops have been wronged. I saw the movie, and I was interested enough in the fact that this was a true story to look up what had actually happened. And when I did, I was really astonished to learn that Affleck and Damon had played so fast and loose with the historical facts here that there's basically, I mean, these two cops, according to everything we know, followed all the rules and did exactly what they were supposed to do, and were not. They didn't break any laws. According to the movie, they were fucking degenerates who tried to steal all this cartel money and were willing to kill anything and everything in order to keep it. I mean, that's a massive fucking. That's not creative license, right? That's literally changing the facts. That's like turning Jesus Christ from the star of the Bible to the devil. Okay, it's just not right. And it's like I know there's there's these days there's so many TV shows and movies that are based on historic fact, that like The Crown and so on, that they end up being the only version of history that most Americans will ever know. I mean, very few people are ever going to go to the trouble that I did and Wikipedia this event of this giant drug bust in South Florida from 10 years ago and say, oh, well, actually, those cops were wrong. They didn't do it. They were wronged. They didn't do any of that stuff. Nobody's going to do that. And so I kind of think, even though, look, I like Ben Affleck's and Matt Damon's movies, and I'll go see more despite having seen this atrocity. but that said, and the writing, oh my God, so terrible. But I think that they were wrong. I think that they should not have done this. I think they should not have claimed or based it on a real event. They should have just made a thriller, made it pure fiction, not tried to tie it into any real historic event, because they twisted it up so fucking bad by the time that the thing came out that it bears no resemblance whatsoever to reality, and it fucked these two cops.
I think I'm going to surprise everybody. I'm going to be to your left on this.
Really?
I don't care about what happened with those cops, and here's why. They're not. Now, keep in mind, I'm talking to you out of a position of ignorance. All I have is the information that you're giving me right now. So I've
Sure.
never seen the movie. I don't think I ever will see the movie. I'm not particularly interested in that kind of thing. But here is how
And I
I'm going
strongly,
to.
and because I love you, I don't want you to watch this movie because it's
I,
bad.
I appreciate that. I'll take your advice, and I will continue to abstain from this horrible movie.
Yeah,
I will read a book instead.
that will
I'm
be
actually
better.
reading the Pacific War right now. Much
That
better
will be
use of my
better.
time.
Mhm.
Uh, they say it's based on an event. They never say they're making a documentary. So that right there is enough for me. Second, the state has got more power than anyone else does. Definitely in our system that we currently have. And if these two guys feel that they got tarred with the brush, well, no, sorry, maybe you should have been doing something more honorable, like executing drug dealers instead of just doing whatever the hell it was you were doing. Just take them to the Everglades, put a bullet in their head, and be done with it. I mean, that's where I stand on it. Uh, but in all seriousness, though, they're fine. They got paid. They got paid their consulting fees. They got their money. They got
They didn't
they
get any consulting fees.
well. Then they consult with. Then they
No,
consult
no,
with.
these two, they yeah. I'm sorry if it was it's a little bit like there's a lot of characters in this story, but the two cops, the two plaintiffs, were not involved in the making of this film in any way, shape, or form. There was another cop who was a consultant, but
Gotcha.
he's yeah. So
Gotcha.
they all they got was their own. It was their salary and their reputations besmirched, which, as far as we know, is unjustified. I mean, not all cops are evil.
No, not all of them are, but I mean, a lot of them are thugs. I'm Team Ted on this.
Hmm.
One of the reasons why, for example, whenever I got pulled over for a speeding ticket, uh, I got kind of lucky. I was in Silver Bow County here in Montana. The highway patrolman comes up. I have my hands right there on the dashboard of the car. Lady comes up, and I've got guns all over the place. Like I got pistols in the front seat. I just got finished shooting. Rifles in the
Well, it's
back seat.
Montana.
Of course. It's like, all right, how do you want to proceed with this? As you can see, fairly well stocked here. And it's like, oh, that's fine. And we just start talking shop. And, but no, with my son, we tell him, Thomas, if you get pulled over, be respectful. Don't be a dick. Don't give them mouth. Don't give them attitude.
But in the story you're telling me that you just related, it doesn't sound like the police officer was mean to you or bad.
No, he wasn't. But that's not to say
Right.
that I'm not going to get pulled over by some hopped up cop who has the attitude of I hope someone causes something so I can have an excuse. You never know what you're going to get. And I guess at the end of the day, honestly, when it comes to this particular story with the with the film, and speaking of ignorance, um, I'm not really particularly concerned about it. They're making a fictional movie, not a documentary.
Well, I'm gonna. So interesting point here brought up by Manchild. the cops outed themselves, and thanks for the dono, by bringing this lawsuit. Their names were never used in the movie. It's a frivolous cash grab. Watch the movie all the way to the end. I did watch it all the way to the end. Okay, so the dry sound effect, you know what that is, I think applies here, right? And so Manchild's point is taken. I mean, it's true. They are outing themselves. That was kind of the concern when I sued the LA Times, like that I was going to draw attention to their defamation, even to people who would never have heard it in the first place. That's always a concern when you sue for defamation. So I take the point. I don't know. It might be a cash grab. That would be very meta, considering that the movie's about a cash grab, and movies themselves are cash grabs. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that their reputations have been harmed. I'm sure that people are approaching them and think that they did it. I mean, people are kind of stupid. I mean, you know, there are a lot of actors who play villains in completely fictional movies and TV shows, and people come up to them in the street and like yell at them or punch them in the face because they're like, I can't believe you did that. And it's like, I didn't. It was made up.
Yeah, as a character. But I mean, there's a certain amount of stupidity that's just baked into our society. No, listen, I take your point. But now here's the question I have: did either one of these cops lose their jobs because of this movie?
Not to my knowledge. I think it would have been in the story if they had.
For sure. So, what damage did they suffer? Obviously, there's no reputational damage. If they were corrupt cops, they would have been kicked out of the force, tried for corruption, put in prison, general population, and they would not be having a good time right now. That's not the case.
They sued for compensatory damages, and I was kind of curious as to what those would. I didn't read the complaint, so I don't know what those would be.
No, I mean, for me to sue you, you've got to hurt me. Making up a story that is fictional, based on an event, but still fictional. It's kind of like The Chosen. It's loosely based on the ministry of Christ. There's nothing in that thing. I mean, there's so much creative license with stuff with what they do. Now, if you're a fundamentalist Christian like me, it's like that's so far off the reservation is crazy. But you can't go off and say that it's blasphemous because they're taking creative license with with stuff that the Bible leaves out. If I made a story about you, and if I just use cutscenes of you and just using filler of you being out shooting clay pigeons with me in Montana, sure, we never did that, but I throw it into the movie. You can't sue me for slander.
Well, because by the way, but there's nothing. Let's just say so. Defamation's interesting, right? Like, not only does the defamation have to be false, it also has to be. Come here, you. It also has to be.
Hey, Clovis.
It has to, not only does it have to be false, it has to be. It has to cause harm. So let's just say you falsely say that I have 3 dogs.
Okay.
Well, you know, I mean, that's not wrong. Lots of people have dogs, and it doesn't harm me in any way, shape, or form. If you say, "Oh, I love to wear green shirts," that's not really true, but it doesn't harm me to say that. But let's just say you say, "Oh, you know, let's say you make a movie about a producer who's in his 40s, who works on a podcast with a lefty guy in his 60s, who has a Russian blue cat, and who likes to kick his cat all the time and beat the shit out of him." I mean, you know, people might say, holy shit, that's a roman à clé. Basically, Robbie's outing Ted as a cat kicker. Now, that would do me reputational harm, because part of my brand is that, you know, I don't do things like that.
Well, Clovis is also on the show all the time. Like he is the 4th co-host.
That's true. And by far the best looking one. But you know what I'm saying? So I mean, I don't know. I'd have to read the complaint really, truly to know for sure. But
I mean, at the end of like, for example, the asshole that doxed me from the hospital. If I could, I would find out who that Zionist cocksucker is, and I would sue him for what he did.
Well, that
because
would be that would be called tortious interference with contract, and you'd have a
because
strong case.
that person did harm. Now, if someone makes a show that said this is fictitious, it's based on an actual person, but the story itself is fictitious, and they have someone like sort of like me, maybe a Mexican, maybe another white dude, who knows. Instead of an SKS, has an AR-15, maybe mounted above with a swastika above it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not doing me harm
Well, it could be.
because you, Ted Rall, have not fired me. So if I'm still working for you, and
No,
if
but
I'm
you can
still
have.
getting it,
That's not true. Okay, so under defamation law, which encompasses both written libel and spoken slander, there are two subcategories.
okay,
There's the normal defamation, and then there's defamation per se. Defamation per se is basically a form of libel or slander that is so extreme that you don't have to prove actual damages. In other words, you don't have to prove that you lost a job or that you lost future work or that you received fewer donations on YouTube or anything like that. You have to, the mere fact that it happened. For example, let's say you falsely accuse someone of being a pedophile. It doesn't matter. I mean, of course, obviously those damages would be more severe if, for example, they were, they were a teacher in an elementary school or a scoutmaster or something like that. But let's just say you accuse anybody of being a pedophile and they're not.
right.
It's so loathsome and disgusting in our society that the mere false allegation entitles the aggrieved, wronged party to sue and recover punitive damages, to send a message to society: don't say shit like this about people unless it's true.
Yeah, no, listen, I get what you're saying, but like if someone you just hypothetical about we'll call it the TDI show, it's clearly a parody,
Mm-hmm.
and so if we try to sue them, so
There
well,
have to be signals that it's a parody, though. You know,
anyone that watches the show realizes I
there has
don't
to
have a
be like a.
swastika over my head. I have a green screen,
Yeah, but
but
there
there's
has
a
to be more to it than that. It would have to. There have to be like little. There have to be signals, and it's hard, right? Like sort of like if you play it too straight, where people could just be believe. Okay, so I thought about suing Ann Coulter. She claimed, she said that Iran had uh, a cartoon contest, political cartoon contest, a number of years ago. She said that I had entered it. Now the thing is, I didn't. And at the time, basically, this was like a pro, basically like an Islamist and anti-Semitic cartoon contest. So I thought about suing her at the time because I was like, well, um, I didn't do that. Now there was no. She's like, well, I was just joking, was her defense. Well, if you were joking, people might have laughed, or there might have been some winking signal, but there wasn't. Everybody believed it was actually true. So, that's the thing. Like, I know, because I operate in the world of parody a lot in writing and in cartoons. And like, there has to be like a reasonable person should be able to suss out like this didn't really happen. This
but how do
isn't
you
really true.
but how do you determine reasonable? We live in society doesn't know what a man or a woman is anymore.
That's
So
why
I
we have
mean,
a court. That's why we have courts and we have politics to argue these things out.
but I don't trust either one of those either. Which again would
Fair,
make
but that's the answer to your question.
but I mean the whole parody. Like if someone did the TDI podcast
Mm-hmm.
with a white
Well, the
supremacist
fact that the
Robbie,
name was different would be a signal, for
sure.
example.
Well, the name of this movie is
And let's
different with
just
the
say
two cops.
you had not just a swastika, but you had like all sorts of over the top, stuff like I'm wearing a hammer and sickle T-shirt, and I have the giant bust of Lenin in the background. That would help.
Why
Signal.
don't you have the hammer and sickle and the bust of Lenin? I mean, what kind of a communist are you?
Because I'm broke because John left the TOD program show, but I would have bought a nice Lenin statue. If no, I don't know. I just
That's so capitalist of you.
I know it's true. I do have a. I think I do. I think I do have a Lenin bust somewhere back there. Um, oh, Let's see. Yeah, I have Lenin. I have Lenin, and he's next to Mao Zedong. I'll bring him and I'll bring him down. I have a whole dictators collection. I'm missing Kim Jong Un, but I have Saddam. I have Tito. You
So,
know,
so very
authoritarian.
authoritarian of you. Yes,
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, I mean,
Dictatorial.
Mao Zedong. I mean, generally, I'm anti-abortion. I would not have minded if his mother had got drowned while she was 9 months pregnant
He
with
was
him.
a great poet, and he made the Chinese language more accessible to millions.
And he made his penis accessible to many, many, many young
That's
girls.
that appears to be true as well. Okay, let's move on here. Okay, next story because we have two more. DMZ coming up at 11, hard out, so got to do it. All right. Um, Police in France are warning drivers to be aware of drunk deer and other inebriated wildlife wandering into roadways after eating fermented fruit. The Saône-et-Loire Gendarmerie posted a video to social media showing a deer frolicking erratically and running in circles after apparently consuming intoxicants. Not all road users are sober, the post warned. The gendarmerie, which is the police department, wrote that deer and other creatures can become drunk after eating buds fermented. I don't mean like, but from the tree, fermented fruits or decaying plants, leading them to totally unpredictable behavior. Drivers were warned to keep a lookout for sudden crossings, inconsistent trajectories, immobilization on the road, and disorderly escape. I don't know what
Yeah.
that last one is.
That's
If
when they run.
Bambi over.
That's when they run into fences and stuff
Oh,
instead of
oh, okay.
jumping over them. No, we have that
Gotcha.
problem here.
I've observed that myself. If Bambi overindulges on the forest aperitif, it might not be the time to drive like you own the road, the post said.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you live in a rural place with a lot of wildlife, like where you live at now, where I live at,
Hmm.
you're going to see it, especially in the early summer, or at least depending on when they the fruit starts to ripen. Uh, Here, people are kind of freaking out because it snowed yesterday. We're supposed to get more snow on Saturday, so they're worried that the cherry crop here might be damaged because of it.
Hmm.
But if you're someplace that has normal seasons without the state trying to kill you, then yeah, I mean, I've seen a drunk bear before. Like he was staggering all around, just falling all over his face. It was it was pretty awesome. We were out picking huckleberries, and this bear was just completely slooshed. Like he could not stand up. Poor thing. I mean, he was just gone. He was just munching down on these berries, just getting drunker and drunker. And pretty sure he's an alcoholic.
I need more details on that. But first, a message from our sponsor, the Chicago Steak Company. They are giving away 8 free steak burgers on every order. Code 8burgers, EIGHT. Think about the last time you bought burgers at the grocery store. You stood there staring at a wall of plastic wrapped ground beef, trying to figure out which one isn't going to turn into a hockey puck on the grill. Maybe you grabbed the expensive organic pack. Maybe you went cheap. Either way, you got home, fired up the grill, and watched them shrink to half their size, dry in the middle, falling apart through the grates. Chicago Steak Company figured out a better way. They make half-pound steak burgers from USDA prime beef, hand-formed from premium cuts, and then they ship them to your door on dry ice. These hold together on the grill, stay juicy, and actually taste like steak. Here's the deal. Spend $189 or more on any steaks you want. Use code 8burgers, and they add 8 free steak burgers plus a bottle of steak seasoning plus free shipping to your order. That's $200 in free extras on top of whatever you ordered. 15,000 5-star reviews. These people know what they're doing. Go to mychicagosteak.com/rumble, code 8burgers. Link in the description. Get them before they are gone.
Got it. Yeah, we should. So you need details.
I do need details. Like exactly. So you said the drunk bears. Like,
Yeah.
what's the difference? How can I mean? I don't see bears on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. I probably so like how do you tell the difference between a normal bear and a bear that is acting strangely?
But most bears, they will try to get away from you. Like they
Mm,
don't really want to mix it up with you. They'll a lot of times you don't even see them because they're going to hear you coming. They're going to go. Now the difference is if there's cubs around, if there's a sow, then all bets are off because at that point you're probably going to die. So, but if it's later in the season and
is this true about all bears or just about?
all bears, if you get between a mama and its babies, God be with you because you're going to have
So
problems.
even like a, I guess what are the so
Black bears.
the least, yeah, those are the black bears the most chill bears?
Typically, yeah, I mean, they're definitely. I wouldn't call any of them particularly friendly, but if I had to have an encounter with a grizzly or a black bear, I've definitely picked a black bear. They're smaller. They're not as strong. They're not as aggressive. I mean, they are more likely to ask questions instead of just go default. I'm going to rip your face off mode. Whereas,
Okay.
which is the kind of like the default setting of a grizzly. So this bear, so we're up in the Jewel Basin. We're picking huckleberries as you're wont to do because you can sell huckleberries for quite a bit of money here. And this bear was laying on the ground with its paw over its face like this. It heard us coming up. It tried to get up, staggered, fell over, looked at us, and then just went back to eating its berries. This bear had nary a care in the world, which is not typical behavior for a bear. Typically, they'll try to scare you away or they'll try to run off. We decided we were going to leave the bear in peace regardless because even though it's a drunk bear, we don't know if it's a happy drunk or a mean one. And so we decided let's let this bear have this bush. And the thieving bear
This
stole our
bush is
huckleberries.
your bush. Okay.
And so, yeah, so this bear just was just, it could not walk. It kept dozing off. You could hear it snoring. It was, it was impressive.
So there's that much fermentation in the berries and shit that they eat.
Oh, there was in this case. Now, I have no idea how many bushes that this bear had decided to avail itself to before we found it with our bush, and we decided we're just going to just go up to Strawberry Lake and go swimming instead, and let the bear do what he's going to do.
Um, let's see. Adrian says, "Is Robbie a teetotaler? Didn't have that on my bingo card."
Yep, I do not drink. Never have.
I'm not surprised by that. Wait, have you ever had a drink in your life?
Nope. I was too afraid I would like it too much.
Mm. Do you have alcoholism in your family tree? I mean, I do.
Oh yeah, no, my dad was a raging alcoholic, and so
Um,
I just it's kind of like the first rule of how do you avoid a bar fight by staying out of the bar.
right.
How do you avoid being a drunk by never taking that first drink? Because I for all of my faults, I don't want to be the kind of man that my dad was,
Mm.
and he was a mean and abusive alcoholic, and so I'm determined that curse will die with me.
Yeah, that's good. Seriously. Um, okay, so I guess this is. I mean, honestly, so this is a good warning. And you're saying this is not just true in France. Have you observed the drunk deer phenomenon?
I've seen drunk deer running into trees. I've seen them running into cars. I've seen them running. No, run. That's how you're talking about the obstruction problem.
Mm,
Typically, if there's a fence, a bear will jump over. Will jump over a fence. However, if the bear has been eating apple, or not the bear, but the deer has been
deer.
eating apples enough, especially later in the season, uh, they forget that they're able to jump, and they just go torpedo mode, and they'll
Oh,
run
see,
it.
because I had a situation. So in my old house, I used to have a gate that it was all fenced in with deer fencing, and the fence was pretty tall. It was probably about, I think it was a 6 foot fence,
Yeah.
and there's a raging debate about whether a deer can clear a 6 foot fence or not.
Oh, they can.
And so anyway, but generally speaking, they didn't. We didn't have the biggest deer there. They weren't like little guys, but they were not the big like Roosevelt elk or anything like that. Um, anyway, I had a gate that basically, if you didn't pull it shut, it wouldn't latch shut. You had to make a point. And so sometimes someone would forget to like shut the gate, and then like the deer would like nose their way in, and
Yeah.
then they're inside. So one time I come out and there's like, the bunch of deer having a feast on my garden. So I went out there, I opened the gate all the way, like big, wide 6 foot opening. I come up from the other side, and I go like, hey guys, and
So yeah.
yeah, get the fuck out, go out that way. There it is. There's the entrance. You came in, right? Um, they panicked and they ran for the fence, and it was horrible. I mean, one of them got like sort of caught in the fence, like basically jumped up, hit the fence, got all ensnaggled. And I'm not going near that fucker because he's kicking up a storm. And I know they attack people sometimes and they kick people and you could get hurt. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
was not a small deer. And I was like, okay, fuck this. And fortunately, eventually it like worked its way loose and ran off into the forest, maybe with a broken leg. I don't think so, but like it was definitely, couldn't have been the better for the wear. And I was just like,
You should have killed him and cooked him.
I didn't have a gun, so.
Use a knife. I mean, hell, just go
What,
there to the side of him.
what about all the kicking that I just explained?
You go there beside him. You go there. He can't kick by his head.
I wouldn't know where to begin. What am I going to do? Just go like
Just stab him
Jeffrey
like
Dahmer on him
right
and just
here.
go.
No, you just okay. Back over here. His ears are right here. So
Uh-huh.
the base of the skull, you just stab right here, and then you just follow the skull down, and he'll bleed out. I mean, he already did the work for him. He was hanging.
Well, next time that happens, I'll bear that in mind. Yeah, this was around the same time I was on the ISIS death threat list,
Yeah.
so having a gun would have probably been a good idea. But anyway, so all right. Everyone's warned. Beware of drunken deer. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, is this only a certain time of the year? Is this only, or can this
Typically,
happen all the time?
typically it happens, when the fruit is really good and ripe. So depending on where you live, either late summer or early
Not yet.
fall. Yeah. So it's too early in the season for it now. It'd be later in the year, even here in Montana. But as cold as it is now, I mean, nothing's going to ferment right now.
Peter Ives says, as a teetotaler, you can't eat the drunk deer.
100% can and will, because that the cooking will cook the alcohol out. If anything, make it more flavorful.
So would you eat,
I
let's
don't eat
say,
anything.
Italian pasta that's been prepared with wine?
Yeah, why not? It's been cooked out.
I mean, well, it's still got, I guess, some alcohol in it, but I'm not
So
really
does
sure.
NyQuil.
I don't know how
You
much.
know,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, listen,
The
I bail myself to
mouthwash.
NyQuil if I'm sick, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I just, whenever I say I'm a
You just don't drink
teetotaler,
alcohol, but you're not like a fanatic.
well, I mean, alcohol is a naturally occurring thing in a lot of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, the prohibition is against getting drunk, and for me, what I'm afraid of, I mean, and I mean this sincerely, is
If you thought you could just have a beer and leave it at that, you would, but you're worried that you couldn't.
yeah, I mean that's my fear, and maybe it's a rational fear. I have no idea,
Hmm.
but
I don't know. That's why I never
that's
tried
my
it.
fear.
That's why I never tried cocaine or heroin because I'm worried that I would like it.
Yeah, I mean that's just my default setting. Just I'm crazy enough. I'm already unstable enough mentally. Let's not.
That's what my drug using friends say about me. They're not really wrong. Okay, so let's move on to our last story. Just a reminder: in 15 minutes, DMZ America podcast with myself and Scott Stantis and Rob Rogers, the editorial cartoonist from Pittsburgh. He's a good guest, so I hope you'll stay tuned for that on YouTube and Rumble. Okay, so men in their 20s are the first to grow up with easy access to pornography. I should say men now in their 20s are the first to grow up with easy access to pornography since childhood. They say it's changed how they see women and how they form and maintain relationships. 6 straight men in the age group each admitted they had habitually used porn to a point where it became part of their daily routine. Starting in like middle school, it was like I'd come home and watch porn after school and take a nap, and it became pretty daily pretty quickly, one man said. By the time I was 18, it was like 2 or 3 times a day. The 26-year-old from Washington, D.C., was only in 6th grade when he first encountered porn, and it transformed the way that he saw the world. I started viewing my crushes differently. I thought more about like their body parts than the whole person, the whole woman, he said. It wasn't long before he found himself seeking out novelty and tumbling down a rabbit hole, leading him to hardcore porn before he'd even had his first kiss. Porn kind of told me what to like as opposed to me figuring it out for myself, he said. It leaves very little room for what we might call quote unquote vanilla sex. Things go from 0 to 100 real quick. When he became sexually active in college, he didn't know how to apply what he saw in porn to real life. Note to people listening to this, don't apply it to real life. It's porn. It's not real life. It actually caused confusion as to what women really want. He said, it made me think that women didn't want any gentleness in sexual interaction, like they all wanted the roughest, most alpha sort of thing, like it had to be hyper dominant. He is a member of Gen Z, the first generation to have smartphones as tweens. With unfettered access to the internet in their pocket, many boys inevitably found their way to porn. Today, the typical kid first comes across porn at age 12, according to one survey. In the 70s and the 60s, people had to go to dingy movie theaters, the red light districts. Yep, and I have stories about that. They had to actively seek good stuff out, a 28-year-old from Florida said. Now it's in your pocket. Looking around at his generation, the DC resident thinks porn has irreparably damaged their relationship to sex. For a lot of people, it seems like sexuality is more of a quid pro quo than a bonding experience, he said. For the average young man, sex has been turned into more of a quick fix drug, almost like nicotine, than an experience to be had. Today, 3/4 of teen boys have seen porn. Half report shame about how much porn they consume. Pornography consumption is very widespread. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Sex collected data from 1,392 U.S. adults between 18 and 73 and reported that 91% of men and 60% of women said they had consumed pornography within the previous month.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, it's everywhere.
It is everywhere. Look, I think some people might be surprised us covering this and my take on it. Because when you're a liberal, a lefty, a progressive, you're supposed to, basically being opposed to porn or being critical of it or concerned about it is viewed as like a right-wing stance. And it's viewed as something that is, kind of reactionary and anti-sex and, and kind of uptight, stick-up ass. And, I think about people like Andrea Dworkin, the radical feminist who for a while was lesbian until she wasn't, who was like a big opponent of pornography. And I think this is one of those cases where I have to say, I don't think there's any problem with sex on video or sexual depictions in theory. This is one of those things where it's about the way it's done in reality that is so foul and toxic that it's fucking up people's relationships. I mean, and what you see, like, even if you just watch an R-rated or a PG-13 rated Hollywood movie, as a kid, you're influenced by that. Like, oh, this is how adults kiss, or this is what making out looks like, or what it should look like. And, and for example, I grew up with the first porn I ever saw was in magazines. I remember in 3rd grade at George L. Ernst Elementary School, one of my classmates bringing a porn bag with some early 1970s, ladies with ginormous bushes. And they had and in my mind, that's still like sort of like a sexual ideal, like a big bush, like curvy, really natural looking, hairy. That's sort of like, that's for my generation, for Gen X 1.0. That's what, us guys, we grew up like being into and what we were exposed to. And, even like, like porn was more cinematic, right? Like there was like Behind the Green Door, the classic age of 1970s porn and early 80s porn that was like there was a plot line, like you know,
So it was a
and
movie.
your pizza delivery is here. One thing leads to another. Um, it's like yeah, now it's not like that at all, right? Like your 11-year-old boy, 12-year-old boy, you fire up the phone, mom and dad are asleep, you're horny or curious or whatever, and suddenly it's just like one clip after another on Pornhub of like stuff that, let's face it, like that, like was described in the article. A lot of it is violent or has a strong subtext of violence, radical objectivity. Um, it it's like it doesn't, you don't need a lot of imagination to see like, man, if anybody takes this seriously and an impressionable mind looks at this and thinks this is real, like that's gonna that's gonna make you more likely to do shit in bed that is dangerous or toxic to your partner or yourself. Then I mean it's I don't know if there's a regulatory workaround. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe the solution is yesterday we talked about how the EU now claims to be able to verify whether someone's over 13. Maybe we just need to be able to verify that you can't look at this shit unless if we know that if this phone is registered to someone who's under 18, they just can't look at it. But I'm going to go further and say a lot of this shit is toxic for any age. And look, I looked at a lot of porn when I was younger. I got bored with it. I haven't looked at it in years because it's boring. But I'm not against the idea. But I just sort of think it's, I don't know. It's like we have the First Amendment. I don't want to censor it. But on the other hand, it sucks, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and May Blue Funky, thank you for the $2. She wants to know, Ted, did having a French mom give you a different view of sex? Did you say anything about it? I feel like they're not as weirded out by sex as a normal part of life.
Yeah, 100%. I remember after the incident at the elementary school. I remember it was literally by the merry-go-round. We I went home and asked my mom about it, and I said I was like, well, how do where do babies come from? And she at the time was a student at Wright State University studying to get her education degree. And without any comment, went and pulled her biology textbook off the map, off the shelf, opened it up to the diagrams and the photos. And she was like, so this goes into here. And I was like, oh my God, that's disgusting. like, like I'm never going to want to do that. And she was like laughing. And she's like, well, you shouldn't, you're not ready to do that, but someday you might want to. You probably will. But right now, but like, yeah, that's how it works. And I was like, and I had a lot of questions and about like, how does arousal work? Why does arousal happen? Um, like, how does conception happen? All that. And she just answered everything in a very straightforward way. And it demystified things. I was a horny fucking little, high school kid and junior high school kid. I remember looking at like the nasty, overweight neighbors across the street cutting their lawns, and I'd be like, yeah, I would tap that. Like I would have. Jules Pfeiffer, fellow cartoonist, he wrote this amazing memoir where he talks about being so horny that he goes to a party in New York City in the 1950s, and he just can't, like, he has to get off, and so he's in the bathroom and he sees a hole in the drywall and just sticks his dick in there and jerked off into the drywall. And I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine like the asbestos and mice droppings and all sorts of, the loose electrical wiring in a New York City like tenement apartment in the 1950s in the East Village, but that's how I was, and like, but I think having an understanding of sex and sexuality and like the fact that women were equally vested and equally interested in sex like definitely had an impact on me, a positive one. I think openness is key. I mean, one of my guiding principles as a parent is don't lie to your children. And that means like if you don't have to like force your like 9-year old to hear your discourse about sex, but if your 9-year old asks about it, you should just answer their questions.
Yeah, I mean, we're always honest with our kids, about sex from an early age. And to your point, like we didn't tell them Santa Claus is real because I mean he's not. I'm not going to lie to my kids about that
Mm-hmm.
because if I tell you about this old fat guy who's who I tell you is real, then if it turns out that that's incorrect, I'm lying to you. Then why would you ever believe in Jesus? Because you can't see him either. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's just kind of how we went through. When it came to sex and stuff, when I was growing up, so I was homeless as a teenager, so I really didn't have a chance to go to see that kind of stuff. I didn't have a typical uh, a typical childhood that way. Kind of got my indoctrination in Brazil. Just like, oh, okay, these because Brazilians they're kind of wild and horny people down there in the in the tropics. And it's like, okay,
That's
so
one of that's one of their positive attributes.
I reckon so. I was wholly ill equipped for that, but no, I mean it was just to your point about porn is that people need to understand it's fake. It's not real. They are trying to they're trying to get you hooked on it because of your endorphins. So that way you just keep going back for more. That way you keep getting the ad clicks. It's not. And that's one of the things I told Thomas. It's like, I have no idea if you're watching it or not. I don't want to know if you're watching it or not. I'm going to assume that you are. I'm hoping that you're not. But if you are, what you're seeing there is not what a real woman wants.
No, no, and it's therefore not what a real man should want.
No, for sure. I mean, you don't
So
want to, I mean, it should be, no, sex is a holy and sacred thing. It was created by God. It was made for us for pleasure and also to let us have kids. And it shouldn't be cheapened that way. And I have the same problem you have. I'm a fundamentalist Christian, and I don't know if porn should be born or should be banned or not because I don't want the government to have that kind of power.
that's the yeah that's the rub, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
because it's a pathogen, but what's more destructive? A government that's able to control what I can see, or something that's out there that's toxic that I can choose to see or not.
yeah, there is a world in which porn is not toxic, but we don't live in that world. Anyway, thank you so much, Robbie. Are you ready for the raid?
Yep, I got ready.
Okay, so coming right up on YouTube and Rumble Live in the 11 o'clock hour on the East Coast. Stay tuned for the DMZ America podcast with Scott Stantis and myself, and we'll end our guest, who is Rob Rogers. Thanks all. Thanks, Robbie. See you later. Bye.